What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Bed Boys, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews and performance talks. I'm Christian,
I'm Brian.
and we are the Bed Boys. And today we got a very special episode. We got a guest in the building. Very special guest. Another coach, great coach in the industry, top-tier human, top-tier coach. We got Alan Cooper from the Chicago Cubs, one of my coworkers.
Hell yeah.
Coop, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you guys having me. Seen multiple Bev Boy episodes. I follow the Bev Boys on Instagram. Brought my own Bev today. Shout out. But excited to be here,
Oh
man.
yeah, go sour pink lemonade. That's like one of the ways to Brian's heart. So you picked a good
My
one.
number two all time. Unfortunately,
Oh, yeah,
unseated by the iced tea lemonade. But
Great minds think alike. I love that.
Oh yeah, I got something a little bit. I've had this brand before, but I have never had a drink like this. I got the 3D Energy Spicy Mango. Dude, I've never had a spicy energy drink. I know, Brian, you've had like the Kill Cliff. What is it, like spicy jalapeno or something like that?
spicy jalapeno from like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, but I've never had a spicy energy drink. So I think this is 3D is usually pretty solid with the flavors. So I'm hoping it's decent. I don't know. As you know, can't beat the price. $1.99 at Vitamin Shop. Simple formula, but dude, $1.99 for an energy drink, that's like you can't beat that. So
No,
that's what I'm sipping. This is newly released too, I believe 2026. So fresh off the shelf.
I got another fresh off the shelf. The zero sugar monster with a shot of strawberry.
Oh,
Not gonna lie to you, pretty underwhelming on the can, but obviously they're not gonna go all in on the strawberry. Obviously, my light sucks, so I'm gonna put it back next to Jordan. So I have a monster next to a monster. But either way, I'm excited for it. Now it is a warm ass can, so I gotta put it in some ice because I'm an idiot and left it in my backpack. So we'll get some color on it as well. We'll see if the artificial colors are still in drinks or not with Monster.
yeah. Hey, throwback to when we used to drink the drinks out of like wine glasses when we were in person.
That is true. Should we pop top talk shop?
Let's pop the tops, boys.
I got some spillage. Oh yeah.
French,
In fact,
what are your thoughts on the spice?
So when you first taste it, you taste the mango, and then it ends with the spice. It's subtle, but I kind of like it. It's not overpowering, but you know it's there.
All right.
It's not overpowering, but you know it's there. The only other like quote unquote spicy drink I've ever had is like those Element like electrolyte packs. They made like a spicy
like mango
or
chili.
habanero, like a chili mango. That was a little bit too much for me. Like that was like just hot, like really spicy. But this one's like more subtle. I'm fucking with it.
If that color doesn't give you instant like heartburn, I don't know what does. But that's
looks
the
like
battery
I'm in the
acid.
bathroom when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah. I can't talk right now. I'm making piss.
What's the flavor like? It's original Monster with a shot of strawberry.
You know, LaCroix is very, very mild on the flavor. It definitely tastes like a regular OG Monster. And then someone took a strawberry and was like, I'm here around the rim.
Just kind of squeezed it around the top. Okay.
Yeah, like you can't really taste a ton of strawberry. But in all fairness, if you don't like the original Monster, fuck you.
Yeah, you got to pay homage to the OG, even if
That's
it tastes
the
like
OG
motor
hat
oil.
Red Bull, man. That was my first
Yeah.
ever energy drink when I was I was 11 years old, and me and my cousins went up to South Lake Tahoe to go skiing. And it was like middle of the day, and they're all older than me. We stopped at like the little ski like thing at the bottom of the hill. It was like 1 o'clock. They still wanted to go, and they're like, "Man, let's pop a Monster." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Come on, bro, don't be a pussy." And I'm like, all right, I didn't know what I was drinking. I drank like half of it, and I thought my fucking heart was gonna explode, dude. I was like going on the run, and I'm like shaking, dude. It was bad. Great first experience though.
So that brings up a good question. There's a lot of people. There's a true divide. Are you Monster or a Red Bull guy? If you had to pick,
If I had to pick to first start off, it was Monster. But then I when I got into high school, I got away from like energy drinks and I was mostly just like doing my thing. But now I feel like I don't drink any of them. I like honestly, it's like I drink Ghosts or Bangs if I have energy drinks. Those are like my two go-tos right now.
it's a guy who just wants Diesel.
Yeah.
You just need that fire.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So why don't you just give us a quick like background on how you got from where you were, how you got to where you are today. Anything you want to add? It could be S&C, it could be anything unrelated, related. I know you've kind of got like an interesting path and you've been at a lot of different stops along the way. So it's like a quick like cliff notes of like your life / career up to this point.
I'll kind of like skip to like my career part, but grew up in like central California, beautiful area, played like sports and all that stuff growing up. Went to school down at San Diego State University. Was blessed enough to have a role with their basketball program there, which was awesome. But right when I graduated, I got into S&C more when I was in college. And then right when I graduated, a buddy of mine, he's like my older brother, his name's Chase Klum. He works for the Tigers now. He lived out in Oklahoma. So I actually moved out there and we opened up like a super small like sports performance facility. It was like I was like a business management major with like entrepreneurship as my emphasis. So I was like, oh, I always want to be a business owner. So we did that like 2 months after I graduated in 2015. And we owned it for like a year and a half. Really cool experience. Like kind of opened my eyes a lot to like the private sector, how things ran. But I kind of missed that like team aspect of it. So we actually both started working at Southern Nazarene University, which is a D2 in Oklahoma City. He worked as like he did S&C the first year just for baseball. It was like a weird thing with like Title IX, is if they were employing a men's like strength and conditioning coach, they needed a women's one, and women's basketball is like their main sport there. And that was my background. So they were like, well, we want you to do that. So I was like, perfect. This is a way just back into the collegiate sector. And after like a year of being away from it, I had really missed it. So I started doing that. Ended up GA in the next year for 2 years. So GA'd and did strength and conditioning for pretty much every sport except football, which was a crazy experience as like a 22-year-old. SNU was an awesome experience for me. It was weird because they were going from NAIA to D2, the transition. So NAI, they didn't have a strength coach. It was almost kind of like just like the sport coach handled everything. And they kind of were transitioning over to they needed to have a strength coach full time. And they had like a 4-year buffer where they had to have all these positions filled. So in that buffer, I think just for like money purposes, they're like, hey, would you be okay with doing all this S&C stuff? And as a young kid, I was like, yeah, why not? It was like a lot of work, but it was fun. It was a lot of like trial by error, just trying new things out. I was there for 2 years as a GA. They brought me on 2 years full time, worked with women's basketball every year as a coach, and then also strength conditioning. At the end of my 4th year, you see so much and you read so much about S&C stuff, and like it was a great school, but we didn't have a lot of the resources that I had wish I had access to. Also, just like being from the West Coast and growing up there my whole life, was kind of homesick. Didn't really see myself staying out in Oklahoma. So I wanted to take a job back home. COVID happened, so it was kind of a weird thing. But long story short, I ended up moving to Washington State. Chase, the guy who I moved out to Oklahoma with, he was at Driveline Baseball at the time as a hitting intern. And so he reached out to me and was like, hey, man, you'd love this place. Come up here. The S&C side is very cutting edge. They have all the stuff that you've talked about you wanted to have, force plates. They have a great group. And in terms of S&C, at SNU, I was the only strength conditioning coach. So I wasn't bouncing ideas off anyone. If anything, I was trying to learn from people online. So I ended up applying to take a internship there at Driveline. So did that in 2021. Also worked as like the head strength coach at Eastside Catholic High School, another amazing place up in Washington. I did that for about 2 years. Honestly, that's where I feel like I learned a lot and like probably grew the most I ever have as a strength coach. The beginning of 2023, our director at Driveline, Stephen Simmons, took a job with the Cubs, pretty much as one of our coordinators, and they had a position opening for a internship role in Arizona. So talked to him about it. It was kind of hard, like leaving a full time position in Washington, but decided like trying a chance to bet on myself and wanted to like obviously like not leave any stones unturned when it come to seeing if I could, have success at the pro level. That was always a dream of mine. So took that, man, and kind of the rest is history. My journey with the Cubs has been kind of a unique one as well. I took an internship in 2023, so that my role was to like work as like the ACL strength coach. For anyone who doesn't know, that's like the complex league here in Arizona with a lot of our like really young players. It's either like high school kids like right out of the draft or a lot of Latin players. And then like 3 months into it, the guy who ran the complex at the DR for strength ended up taking a different job. So they promoted me, gave me a full-time position, but they also sent me down another level. So I lived in the Dominican, which Christian knows a lot about that, for about 5 months. That was it was an awesome experience. And I'm really glad I did it. And then that was 2023. 2024, I was in Myrtle Beach in Low A. 2025, this last year, I was in High in South Bend. And then this upcoming year in 2026, I'll be in Double A in Knoxville. So it's been good. It's kind of it's a unique experience to see pretty much like every single level of like the lower levels of minor league baseball, and now kind of getting up into a little bit of the upper levels. But I've been really blessed to be at a lot of different spots and work a lot of different sports and just get a lot of different viewpoints on S&C in life. So that's kind of I thought that was going to be a lot shorter, and I talked for way longer. I swear my answers aren't going to be that bad. I'm going to shorten it up, but I'm done now.
No, that was good. The people want to know. The people want to know. Dude, one thing I want to kind of dig into is like you kind of took like a good amount of like risks, like right out of school, you just went and opened up your own business. And then after that, you went and took like an internship role, and then you left another full-time job to take another internship role. That's not like something that a lot of people would be willing to do. And I like how you mentioned like not leaving any stones unturned. Like is there something like specific like motivating you behind like being able to take those risks, or is it mostly just like wanting to see how far you can take this thing? Was there ever a time where you were like, oh shit, like this might backfire and blow up in my face, or was it just kind of full steam ahead the whole time?
I feel like just from like getting out of college, like stuff that like my parents instilled in me was like, if you're gonna like work real hard, have a super positive attitude, like put everything into it, like you're probably gonna have success a lot of the time with things. From the S&C side of it, like I think like you have to. There's like a point, especially when you're starting out, that like, and even for me right now, like I'm 32 and I've been doing S&C for like 10 years, right? But there's still like a lot of stuff that I'm learning and I don't know. And so like I think just being able to like be open and being like, hey, like I'm willing to learn like whatever is going to be out there for me, whether it's like learning from a different sport, learning different technology, different methodologies. And then the risk side of it, right? Like, dude, I was a young single guy at the time. Like I had no problem like working like other like I don't want to say like minimum wage, but just like other like small jobs to like make extra money. Like, dude, when I went out to Washington when COVID happened, I remember I brought up like all of my landscaping equipment with me. And so like I would do like hedge trimming for people, like shit like that. Dude, I like drove like Lyft for a little bit. So like I would make extra money on the side. But I think like the experience of like, I think I would have regretted it more if like I stayed in Oklahoma, or like I just was like, oh, you know what? It's an internship. I just want to take like a normal job. And then like 10 years down the road, it's like, man, like what if I actually like wanted to pursue this a little bit more, but I just never gave myself the shot, you know? So I think just like being okay with having to put in a lot of work and being okay with understanding like you might not know it all, and it's okay that you have to either work for free or work for like an hourly wage. It's not that great, but yeah, I don't know. I would definitely tell a lot of people to like take more chances, especially nowadays. I know S&C like the college side of it, everything can be like tough, even the pro side when it comes to like getting paid. But yeah, I don't know. I just had the mindset of like if I work my ass off and do a really good job and I really like put my all into it, I'll be okay. And if I had to do extra stuff to make money, it was never like really an issue. It was like, okay, I'll do it. But I loved SNC and I loved the job. So
Was it any of it that you were kind of doing, like at any of the times of the moves of, oh, this could really turn into something? Like, were you thinking, 2-3 years down from that position, or was it just more so not impulsive, but like if I can go there, I can learn. If I can learn, something can happen. Or was it kind of just flying by the seat of your pants?
Honestly, it was more like that, especially for like the Driveline one. The first one when I moved out to Oklahoma, it was more like I think I was so like that one was like a little more like, man, I got a college degree now. Like I'm a business major. I'm gonna make this shit work, and like felt good about it. When I left after, it's like you kind of get your eyes open when you're working a full-time job and you're living on your own. The Driveline one was like, hey, I just want to I want to learn from these guys and I want to see like where it takes me, and if I hate baseball or if I hate it up there, like I can do something else or take a different route. With the Cubs, it was more like, this is a professional baseball organization, man. Like I remember watching the Cubs when I was a little kid. Like this could be something like could like really like change my life. But at the same time, like I knew I was going into something where they had a ton of resources. And again, I was going to be around like a lot of really good strength coaches that would just give me like a different perspective on everything that I had done in the past when it came to training.
I guess like for you, when you came through to each one of those, was there any points of like massive, I don't want to say culture shock, but like seeing those different levels? Obviously going from, literally seeing, I think the only potential one that you didn't see firsthand in person was like P4 Division One.
Yeah.
You've seen it every other kind of, NAIA to NCAA and then everything in the minor leagues. What was like the culture shock between everything?
I guess like SNU was a little weird because it was a Division II. It was a school that was going into Division II, but there wasn't a lot of resources. Like our weight room like was okay, but a lot of the equipment was older. I had no technology. There was no like AMS system that we used for like tracking. Like everything was like Excel sheets that I had to make. And I was doing it all on my own. So I was almost like a little bit like naive to things in a sense, I think, And then when I went to Driveline, that was more like a culture shock of like the environment was great. Like the training environment was like everything that I had wanted. Like guys were like, it was loud. Guys were getting after it. It was fun like every day. And I was like, holy crap, this is perfect. Like I fit in great when it came to that. But on the side of like actually like using like data to like make informed decisions about training, like I had no idea to do that. I think when you're at like a lower level, there's like you only have so much, right? Like, okay, is this guy running his like 40 faster? Is his 5'10" 5 faster? Is he squatting more? Is he benching more? Like, is his broad jump further? Like, I'm making these decisions based off that, and then also like subjective stuff of like, hey, how does this athlete feel? Like, how do they look, right? Where like I almost like there was still a part of that, but like it turned so much to like, no, what are the numbers telling us? Like, what are we actually getting from it on this side of things? How can we apply that to his training? So like that was so much different from like for me. And then also like the other thing that was great about Driveline was like, how can we like compare this to like the side of him actually like getting better as like a pitcher or a hitter? Majority of our guys were pitchers, right? And so like I remember sitting in on athlete meetings there and them going over like the kinematics of like this guy's like movement when it comes to throwing, and I was like, holy crap, dude. So I remember like that was one of the best parts too, is like I learned a lot about strength, but because our like departments were so like closely intertwined, I learned like a lot about like pitching and hitting and everything that went into that. So that was a big eye opener. And then when it went to the Cubs, I think then it's like you have everything that comes along with like a pro ball season, right? Like feel like I knew a lot, and I knew a lot about baseball then, but then it's like, okay, how do you deal with like moving up and down levels? How do you deal with guys who like this is their first year in the United States and they can't speak English at all? Like there's a lot of different like culture shock when it comes to that, but it was definitely different at each stop for sure.
You almost kind of like went over and under on like the farthest ends of the spectrum, and then it like evened out as you kind of got back to the Cubs. So you were like, okay, I've seen the like overly extreme on having nothing, at SNU, and then having the over extreme of using almost every piece of data, like at Driveline, where I mean they probably got them in like the 3D mapping, looking at the exact internal rotation on the elbow on the pitch, right? And then kind of meeting in the middle in the Cubs, and like there's a certain level of kind of sifting through the noise, right?
Yeah.
And now that I feel like, talking with French here for so long and hearing this with the Cubs, it's like you guys are really, really good at sifting through a lot of the noise in the data. Now that you've kind of had both sides, where you've worked with none and worked with everything, where do you kind of sit on this, where you can kind of distinguish like what is noise versus what is a signal or a message?
That's a tough question. It's it'd be hard to like go back to like the nothing, because I think my like brain would always be like fasting for like oh my god, like what was his counter movement depth? He looked like he jumped way higher, but like I know he's like cheating it, or like what was his RSI there? Like I want to like be able to manage his workload, but I don't know how fast he's running truly. I just have this time here, so I think I'd be like waiting on that. But there is this like happy medium I think you need to find, right? Like I think like the data needs to drive you in a sense, but I think you can't lose the art of like actually like coaching the guy, having feel around the players. I think that's super important, especially like here at like the professional level, where like the seasons are so long. Like honestly, the time we spend with the guys are so long. Like, I think the way we do things with the Cubs is great. We have like an off season. We have strength camp that goes from pretty much like end of September, beginning of October to like mid-November, late November. Then we have January camp. So we started like 2 weeks ago. So these guys are with us so much, man. So there's like a lot more that goes into it of like, hey, like we see these metrics are going a certain way. Let me talk to the guy. Let me see like how they're feeling, what the consensus is on like, I guess like where they're at in training right now, and baseball and life and other stuff. So there's definitely like it's a hard balance. If I wanted to lean to one, I would definitely want the data and like kind of lean to that side, but I definitely wouldn't go like all the way there.
You kind of brought up a really good point though too. Is like these guys are with you guys almost for all year long, right? Maybe a break here and there, but even if you guys just look at like your entire just regular season, you're a 6-month season. That's super long. Like what's your thought process as you kind of go into that, like developing the training plan, getting through like the periodization? Does it look like a traditional periodization model? Is it more agile? Like what is that like for you? And especially seeing it at different levels, does that differ? As development becomes more important than performing, like where is that shift? And then like when you guys are sitting down and looking at the way you want things to go for the season as on the performance side, where are you kind of going with it?
Another really good question. French, you could probably talk on this a little bit too. We actually had this discussion a little bit like this last week. We do like questions of the day, and we had this like discussion to an extent, but I think it just differentiates from level to level. Like the levels that I had been at so far, so like Myrtle Beach and South Bend, it was tailored more to like, these guys aren't going to play in Wrigley this year or next year. It's just not going to happen, right? Like with the guys we have. So it's like, okay, like what is going to be the best for them to develop as a baseball player? Like there is a lot of things baseball wise these guys need to get better at for sure, but there is like a ton of physical development that these guys are also lacking. Primarily, like, I mean, I wouldn't say like, I would say a majority of it is like a lot of our young Latin players too. Not necessarily because like they aren't as good of athletes. Like honestly, in my eyes, sometimes they're better, but it's just they haven't been through like the training from like a young age, like a lot of the Americans have or the college guys have, right? So I think their biological like training age is like so much lower. So there's like a lot more to milk out of those guys. I think it's like super important that way, like at the younger levels, if we do want to have this thought of, well, we want to develop these guys in season, we need to be on the same page with the sport coaches too, in terms of like, what's their day-to-day workload, right? I could be like, wow, this guy needs to gain weight. We need to like hammer him, right? And we can have him on this like pseudo accumulation block in season because I want him to get bigger and I want him to put on mass. So it's like, okay, if we're doing this, but then the kid's also like having these huge days where he's got defense for an hour, he's got hitting for an hour, right? And he's swinging 100 times a day. Like that's going to run the kid into the ground. He's going to get hurt, right? So we need to make sure we're on the same page of like, okay, how often is he playing? What are his days scheduled like, right? Is he having like super high output days? Is he having like some medium days? Is there any low days? Okay, then how can we attack that in the weight room, last year in South Bend, I had a really good group from the coaching side, and I think we were able to like really accomplish that with players. And honestly, from the Cubs, I think, French, you could talk about like the DR the last 2 years, but I know the lower levels of like Arizona, like Myrtle and South Bend, we really try to push like development and like really trying to like push the needle in terms of being a little more aggressive with like what we do physically in season. I think as you get up to the higher levels, Tennessee, it's somewhat like that, but maybe like a little, not as much. And then AAA's a beast inside of itself. But I would say like there's still like a lot of that we're trying to drive in season. You know, it's not just like, well, let's maintain and get them through. You know, we're trying to get these guys better simply because like there's a long runway before we actually need them to like be on like the Chicago Cubs and perform on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think there's like a misconception of like once you're a professional, like you're done with all that. Like you're done like developing, and it's honestly like I feel like it's more closer to the opposite more often than not. Especially like you said with like the younger like Latin guys, like they've never like touched a weight before they like come to the academy or whatever. And it's also like, I mean, getting into like more of like the politics of it, like like the guys that at least internationally wise, the guys that sign for like bigger bonuses, those guys are gonna be on people's radar. But then there's people that don't sign for as much money where people don't even like really know their name. And for those guys to get noticed, they really need to like they need to have like a really good season and like stand out. So like one, like you said, like those guys are so far away from playing at Wrigley that it's like you kind of need to be like a little bit more on the aggressive side. And it's also like there's guys that like, he signed for hardly any money that like end up being like kind of like diamonds in the rough. And it's like that helps get those guys noticed. Like you got to help them any way you can. And I think I do agree that like obviously like it's kind of it's a fine line to me because like you want kids to like obviously value winning and like you want to win and for guys to compete, but you also know that like it doesn't matter as much like if you win like the low A championship or like if you win the DSL championship, like okay, that's cool, but developing in the long term is a little more important. So I guess you kind of got to look at it the way that like, okay, like if we're the best at developing players, like at some point that's going to lead to wins. Like there's not a world where like we're just better than anyone else at developing players where that doesn't help us lead to wins. If like talent is like somewhat equated, which like it probably is at the pro level. Like people are kind of scouting the same people. If we can do a better job of getting people better, I don't think there's a way at the end of the day where that doesn't hopefully lead to us winning more often. So it's kind of like almost like counterintuitive, like, oh, like development is more important than winning at lower levels. But like, it's different in baseball because, there's like 6 or 7 levels. Like it's at the end of the day, like people care about the Chicago Cubs. They're not caring as much about, Myrtle Beach Pelicans or like, the rookie ball team. Like people go to those games and maybe it'll be on the radar, but like people care about what's happening in the big leagues. So it's a lot different than like other sports where it's just like, okay, you're on NFL, you're either on the team or the practice squad and that's it. Or NBA, it's NBA G League, that's it. It's a lot more that goes into it.
There's one thing I gotta interrupt and I gotta ask. Well, 2 things actually, because I was digging a little bit before we started, and I've had this pulled up, and I just keep checking over at it. You have a trading card?
It's pretty sweet, huh? You can get it on eBay, dog.
I can bid $1 right now.
You know what's wild? So this last year in South Bend, so I had one, and I was like, I remember when I went to Myrtle Beach, and they gave me one, and I was like, dude, no way. I was like, I got this trading card. And like I told my family and my friends about it, and everyone was like, I still have them in my truck right now. And then when I got to South Bend this year, I remember like they put like it was like 2 weeks into the season, and they gave everyone like a little they put them in little plastic things, and they put them in our locker. And I'm like, oh shit, I got trading cards again. And I went and opened it up, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm not in here. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, they must have like forgot something happened. And I went to our club, and I'm like, dude, I was like, do I get a training card this year? Or what's the deal? And he was like, bro, I'm sorry, man. Like, we only had like, I think it was like they had like 40 like slots or 40 like people that could make it. And I was like the one person that didn't make it. And I like looked on the back, and the last 2 people were like the mascots, bro. And I'm like, damn, y'all couldn't put me above the mascot? Like the mascot got a trading card, but I didn't get a trading card? But it's pretty sweet though, man. Put a bid on it, dog. I'll sign it.
Dude, I might have to just so people are aware and they can see here.
You don't have to put a bid, bro. I got like 30. I got like 30 of them. Oh yeah,
It's a good looking guy on the trading card here,
that's
man.
right, bro. That's right. But you know the other thing that they did me dirty. So like, did you see Luis's trading card that he got last year, French?
Yeah, his was like an action shot,
Luis
like
had
on the
an action
field.
shot, bro. They just took my headshot. Like I know I had some good action shots from some of the warm ups.
Yeah,
Like give me an
Luis's
action
was
shot.
like on the field, like
Yeah, bro. Like,
on the field, like guys.
but hey, everyone starts
Oh.
somewhere, bro. Everyone starts somewhere.
Facts. Ain't
I
no
might have
that
to-
in the DR.
I might have to hit buy it now when we finish here. But Coop, there's like one thing for sure. It's like you got a lot of energy. And I don't hate that. I like that. What are you like when you're coaching, right? Does that energy does that carry right over? Are you a little bit more calm, cool, and collected? I'm like, we talk a lot about coaching styles. French and I obviously coach very differently. Especially if you put us in the same team, we'll probably approach it two different ways. And then obviously different teams require different situations. But what's Coop like when you get on the floor and you have, let's put you in, we got 12 guys in the session. What does that look like?
I mean, I was like, I have always been like pretty like high energy. Like I was like that as a kid, dude. I used to get yelled at for just like not sitting at my desk, all that stuff. But it's very like context dependent. Not saying that I like change who I am right inside of a session, but if I'm with a guy one-on-one or there's two guys and they're older, like 24, 25-year-old pitchers, I'm going to push them and we'll get loud in the compounds and like have some fun, but then we'll talk one-on-one. It's not like I'm screaming at them, the music blaring 24/7, right? But for example, like in our Gen Camp groups right now, right? Our position player groups are like 12 or 13 guys. A lot of my guys are like younger Latino guys. I have a couple like young college kids. Like we crank the music and we're getting after it, man. And I'm like pretty loud and excited. I think the weight room, especially for a lot of these guys, the lift is like the last thing we do at the end of the day right now, right? So they come in, they had a full day of like practice. They're probably a little tired. They're hungry, right? It's like, oh man, I got to come train again. That's how a lot of them think about it. It's like, how can we make this like really fun? I love being excitable. I love like bringing a ton of energy. So, I mean, that's how I am like naturally. But again, like it all just goes back to like the time and place that you're at, and having feel around the situation. Like I would lift guys after the season, like some of our pitchers, right? After the season and during the games, right? And it's like the seventh inning, these guys just threw like 5 1/3 and they're gassed, They come in, it's like, okay, how can we like bring this down a little bit, still get good training in, But that being said, like I'm always going to be myself. It's always a pretty like high energy, like fun, like, excitable person. So, but again, it's just all based on like the time and the place and the situation, what I deem it needs.
I think that's a big thing that people don't understand is that the timing, even the type of session that you have, like for men, and honestly, almost I think every guy, if you have an upper body session, they're going to want to get pretty juiced. So like there's a lot of energy that comes through, but when you're with 3-4 guys or just 3-4 athletes in general, it's obviously a little bit more intricate on some of the things because number one, you have the time to allocate to the individuals. Number two, you don't want to come in like a P4 football coach. You don't want to be Scott Cochran screaming in their ear for 4 people.
Yeah.
And like, then it becomes, then you're just the train kind of running through the station. So it is cool to see, like, even at the very top levels and working through this, that's still a thing versus like, a lot of people will kind of seem like, oh, you're in the pro ball. Like you don't see them as long. There's this misconception that you aren't really doing that much because they're seeing their private trainers and this and that versus seeing, true development that comes from that side. So it is like from that perspective, like especially in baseball, I think with you guys having so many touch points and time or duration of time with them throughout the year, that it's truly treated like a development system versus, okay, sometimes you think about like the NFL or like the NBA where, are they really doing that much with you or are you kind of there just to make sure that they don't die, in that sense? So, I mean, I think that's an interesting kind of take, especially when it comes through, you guys have 2 strength camps a year, right? You have your January, you have your fall or late fall kind of strength camp, and then you're going into season after that January kind of strength camp. And then I assume there's probably like a little break. and then you guys gather up, obviously at whichever level you're at, and then you're with them for essentially your entire life for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, how Dirk? Because we mentioned like it's a long season, especially like some guys. That's the season. Then you factor in like spring training. That's another month. If a guy's like invited to big league camp, that's even longer. If you make playoffs, that's even longer. It's like, how do you stay consistent as a coach and just like a person in general during like that long of a season where like player emotions can be kind of like volatile, like like certain times of the year are more stressful for players, especially like if it's like around the draft, like new guys are coming in, there's obviously pressure and people know what comes with that, or like it could be like a like a turning point in a guy's career where they really need to like produce this year. How do you like stay consistent during that year to kind of help them get the best out of their development?
I would say like it kind of goes back to where the same as like the energy vibe of like every situation is going to be a little bit different on how I approach it, right? So to give a few examples, like we drafted a kid in 2024. I had him for like the last like 3 weeks in Myrtle. His name's Ivan Bredhauer. Awesome dude. Really good athlete. We traded him to the Pirates last year in the middle of the season, but we drafted him in 24. He probably spent like 3 weeks in Arizona in like July, August. They shipped him off to Myrtle. So immediately he's playing 3 weeks of pro ball season after he just played a whole college season. And then right when he gets done with Myrtle, he doesn't go home. They bring him back to Arizona, goes through all of strength camp. Did a great job. He gets like a month and a half off. Then they bring him back to early January camp. And from pretty much like January like 6th to September, like first weekend of September, that 9 months, it's straight baseball, right? Like January is kind of chill. He has 2 days off. But then when it's like mid-February, you're going like 6 days a week, sometimes even longer than that during spring training. And I remember him telling me like, he's a big dude. He was like 6'6", like 245, 250, strong guy. And he's like, man, he got to like, I forget what it was, like June, July. And he was like, dude, I'm feeling like burnout, Like, I don't know if I could like push it anymore. It's like, okay, so like when I hear that as a strength coach, what levers can I pull with this guy, right? Do I need to like take back on volume a little bit? Should we look at like his overall like running volume, his intensity volume? Like how do I talk to like the skill coaches about this, right? Like everything's going to be a little bit different. Then you have like the situation with guys who are like young dude. He just got promoted from Myrtle Beach, right? He's in South Bend for the first year. He's hyped, full of energy, right? Hey man, I'm going to come in and lift every single day this week. I'm going to come in like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He's like ready to go, right? And it's like, he's got all this energy, which is awesome. I love that. But it's like, okay, like maybe we need to like, be like, hey dude, like we're only gonna like do this or we're gonna microdose, you know what I'm saying? And like every situation is gonna be a little bit different. I think that goes back to like the question of like periodization when it comes to in season. Like I think the last 2 years I've had like a framework of like what I want to do when it comes to like how we're gonna train. But there's so many like adjustments you need to make. One, based off how the guys feel. Two, based off like what our like analytic like metrics are telling us, and then like what we're getting from like all the metrics we use on like Catapult, the force decks with their jumps, right? And so it is like a lot of fun though, because it allows you to like be able to like really like help those guys and push them when they need to be pushed, pull back when they need to be pulled back if they're feeling it. So
that's one of those interesting ones that you kind of mentioned at the start, is like the college player who kind of comes up. There's a lot of parallels between that, like track and field, more so than people would like to think. But like getting into it, like baseball, last year, you have your fall ball, you get right into training. A lot of guys coming out of college, you have, that early season kind of January where they're getting into team practice out of indie kind of groups. And then it's a long season. And then you say you get drafted, you get pulled right up, and now you're extending that season. That kind of happens with track and field too, where they're competing from December to essentially mid-May. If they're a pro prospect, they're probably competing into June. And then that, a diamond league circuit, whichever it may be, they're going all the way through late October to almost November. That's a real long season to stretch out. And you see a lot of failures from, essentially everybody who's not the exact top 0.01% who can sustain that. Do you guys have any of those kind of failures as they come in? And then what do you kind of do about that in the sense of like, maybe not necessarily like a burnout standpoint, but, almost a sense of burnout where they're coming in and it's not capable of holding on for that long because they've got 6, 7, 8 years of being able to take that time off.
Yeah. I know just from like the skill side of it, like I probably wouldn't be able to speak super highly on that, but like from the physical side of it, right? Like this goes back to like some of our principles we share at the Cubs is like, okay, how can we diversify the training and make things like very like novel in some ways for them where it's a lot more fun. Like some of that may come from the warm up, right? Of we're going to like spice this up. We're like, instead of going through a generic dynamic warm up, like we're going to play this type of fun game today. Or we're going to make this guy move this way. Right. And he comes out of the session of that like 10, 15 minutes before I practice being like, damn, Coop, that was fun. We got to play that tomorrow. We got to do this tomorrow, And now it's like, okay, man, this guy's day might have been freshened up and now he might have a little more like life to him just because of that. Right. Or, little things inside of training, right? Just like possibly like trying to like methodologies with him, like pulling stuff back, right? But I think just like also at the end of the day, like it's like seems kind of weird from like a strength like coach side of things, but like honestly just being there to like listen to the guy and like hear what he's saying, reaffirm that, like you're almost like a therapist sometimes, And like just being like, hey dude, trust the system, trust like we're gonna get here, but then after this is like the plan for that. Like making sure you like understand like what he's going through and then like giving him like, hey, this is like what we have going forward for you, where you're going to go into the camp. We're really going to push these like outputs where we see it on like whether it's the physical side or like we're changing this with your swing or like we're going to change this with like your gait or your mechanics, whatever it may be, right? Of like this is what we have to like look forward to, but we're going to have to push through right here. How can we make like these next like 3 weeks of like the season or you playing like the best we can, right? And here's like the things that I see, right? Let's try to do this in the weight room. Let's try to accomplish this. Let's try to have you feeling this way, I want to see like this in your numbers, right? Or this in your sprint stuff. Like it's a little bit different, but I think those are like the main two things, like trying to make things like novel and fun for these guys. Cause at the end of the day, right, they do have it's a great job and they're playing baseball, but like it is super stressful, and like it's a lot. Like you're doing it 6 days a week. Sometimes you're on the road in like super shitty stadiums and hotels, so these guys like want to have fun and novel stuff too, right? And with everything else being like so structured of like you have to hit this way, like and like baseball is extremely hard, right? Like these guys are throwing 95 miles an hour and the ball's moving like that, and it's like, dude, you better hit it, come on. And I'm like, I was up there, but I don't know what I'd be doing. So it's like how like easy and like helpful can we help these guys when it's off the field?
Yeah, I want to touch on one thing. Obviously, like we're big on, kind of like a different approach to the warm up, and that was something that was like before I came to the Cubs, that was like foreign to me. Like I'd seen people play like small sided games, but like we do something like that pretty much every single day. And like you to me are someone who's always like really creative with that and like finding ways to like essentially make new games and like forming the game and the constraints in a way where it's like geared towards the goal of what we're going to train that day. Where did that like start? I know obviously like our assistant director Stefan and like Rooney is obviously like big on that. Like what's kind of like what was like the birthplace of that for you, and when did you really start getting into that, and like where do you have like a process for coming up with some of those ideas, or you kind of just like do it on the fly, or how does that come to be?
That was another thing I drive on that kind of started for me, because I was the whole like when I was at SNU, it was like we had this 12-minute dynamic warm up. You use your mini bands, right? You do that for 5 minutes. We do these 5 exercises. Then we go through all these exercises, right? And that was just how it was. And then I remember when I went to Driveline, like one of the first days, Stefan was like, I forget, it was like med ball 2-ball or something. And he was like, Coop, get over here. We need an extra person. And I was like, what? And I thought like they needed me to like assist with something. And this dude like just throws a med ball at me. And I was like, all right. And then he's like, you know how to play med ball 2-ball? I'm like, nah. And he's like, all right, throw the ball to someone else real quick. And they showed me how to play. And I'm like, we did that for like 4 or 5 minutes, and I was like low-key gassed at the end of it. And I was like, what did we just do? And he's like, all right, how you guys feeling? They're like, good. And he was like, all right. He was like, give me like one or two hard sprints, and then you're over to the throwing side. And I'm like, I was like, is that your warm-up? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. And I was like, so I started trying to do some of that stuff, And I was like, this is way more enjoyable for me as a coach, but honestly it's way more enjoyable for the players too. And you get the guys out of like the same monotony of like doing the same stuff, where like if we're being honest, like as a strength coach, like I do want guys to like take the warm up seriously, but a majority of the time, and this like goes for like strength camp, or if we're in like game like 84 this season, these guys are gonna go through it, and like most of the time, like they're gonna like half-ass a lot of it. So it's like, what am I truly getting out of that, right? If I just want to like raise their internal temperature, like warm them up, and have them like move in like new like different spontaneous ways where they're gonna have to learn, like let's make this a little more like competitive, let's make this fun for them. And then so from there, dude, when I first started doing it and the guys like loved it, I had guys coming up to me after of like, hey, can we try this? Hey, like, they were even giving me suggestions of like, hey, for that game, like let's do this different next time. I'm like, shit, okay, I'll do that, you know. And then so you like, we have all that stuff, right? We have like hurdles, like volleyball, spike ball nets, these boxes. It's like, okay, like if the theme of the day, right, is going to be like change of direction stuff, like how can I like warm them up, right? How does it start with like easy cuts, and then we get into like more aggressive, right? If I want them to get more of like an aerobic stimulus, can I like make the game bigger? Can I make the dimensions wider, right? Where now they're going to have to like run around and move a little bit more, right? Whatever it may be, I can kind of like, I know the constraints that I want to put on them, and like, okay, how can I make this like game like flow smooth, right? And then also it's like, how many guys do I have in my group? Do I have like 20 guys? That changes like how I'm going to do things, right? Do I only have 5? So like there's a little bit different, right? So a lot of it's just like practicing too, and then like just trying different stuff with the affiliates, dude. And there was like I did some games where like it just like didn't work. Like, and the guys were like, dude, like, yeah, we're never going to do this again. I'm like, perfect. Ship it off. We try something new sometimes. So, and they're cool with it, but they know like, hey, sometimes it's going to like not work, and sometimes they're gonna be like, dude, that's a staple, and then it just becomes like we put that in, and that's one of the things we play every week, you know. So it's different, but the guys love it, and I love it as a coach. It's fun to like just see them like move in like new like fun like ways too.
There's definitely an aspect of like a relationship building that you have with like your players, where you can kind of get that like true and honest feedback on things.
Yeah.
The hard part is like you know, not to say it, but from an outside perspective, there's like this revolving door when it comes to these leagues, where someone's here for this season, they go up, they go down. It's always somebody kind of new. How are you developing those relationships to have that like a genuine interaction, that way you can coach them a little bit better each time in, for lack of a better term, a very condensed period of time where they're either in and it's like, hey, they're going to, you know, kind of sometimes they're coming in here for 3-4 months. How do I get this guy to buy into me, to what we're doing here, so that way when he leaves, he's set up for the next level, or vice versa?
I would say like the first thing is like, and this is a shout out to like the Cubs and our like SNC staff, but I feel like everyone's like pretty like aligned on like how we want to train these guys, you know? So I think everyone in our staff has different like methodologies or ways of like how they train, you know, and that's fine. Like I grew up like much more like Olympic lifting based. I love doing that stuff with some of the guys, even if it's like regressions, right? Where like other guys don't. Like Bruni's like super big into like a lot of the different like movements, like spinal stuff, which is great. And I've taken a lot from him, right? So it's like we all like are pretty aligned on like how we do stuff. So I think when guys like either move up and down levels, they can expect like a lot of the same things, right? Whether it comes from like how they train, the warm-ups, different stuff like that. And then like honestly with the camps like that we have right now, like I try to just like talk to all the guys and build relationships with them. Like even guys that I know are going to be at like AAA, or guys that I know they're going to start in like the complex league or rookie ball, I want to make sure they know who I am, right? And I'm going to be around for their training and like hyping them up and showing them that like I care about them. I think that's like a huge thing about it, just so like they know like this guy doesn't give a shit about me because I just signed and he's going to be a AA this year, whatever it may be. Like, I want to be like intentional with like every single guy that comes in there, you know, like making sure I know their name, making sure like I know a little bit about them, right? And like I know like what their body weight is, what their jumps are, some of their goals, you know. It's cool. It just helps like the dynamic of like how we're able to get these guys better and how we get them to like be super in on like what we want to do and accomplish training wise.
You know, we've joked about it a couple of times, but it's almost like the Cubs do lay out like a pretty good blueprint of like what a fully high performance system, or as close as you can get to it, like should look like, the way it's integrated, not just from, you know, say sport coaching to skill coaching to medical to performance to the front office. But like when you guys look at that, you're doing it, you know, 8 times over different levels. And then saying, well, every one of those levels is going to work together in their smaller ecosystem, but then it all fits into the larger one. Like does that kind of come from the top? Like who do you feel like is orchestrating it really well? Like we obviously like I'm well aware of Weissman. Like that guy's a genius. Like sat in a room with him for 2 hours and I was like, oh my god, like what do you think about on a daily basis? But is everybody like that up there?
Wiseman's a different cat, dude. He's awesome, and I'm so glad he's with our major league team. He deserves it. He was the minor league coordinator when I first started, so like I was in Arizona with him for a little bit before they sent me down to the DR. But he's awesome. I think he was definitely like a big like proponent of it to start. Our director, like Blaine Kinsley, he's great. And I think like I tell him this like every time we have a phone call, but I think like the people he's brought in has been like amazing. Like the two main guys that I work with in Arizona that I think have like headed it and highlighted it. I've mentioned Steph. I worked with him at Driveline, Stephen Simmons, and then our minor league coordinator Nathan Garza too is like done extremely well in my opinion over the last like year and a half. But I think it's just like for them like laying down the standard of like what we want, like everyone on the staff being on like the same page. And I think like the other thing too, and again, this was like one thing I love about just having like a lot of strength coaches to like bounce ideas off of is like I think we can be like pretty like open and vulnerable with one another, and like people's feelings don't get hurt if we like call something out. If we disagree on something, like we can have like a good discussion and people can speak their mind and we can come to like a point of like this is what we want to do, and I think that's like invaluable, but I think they've like, since I've started with the Cubs back in 2023, like it's gotten better and better each year in terms of like the systems that we've laid out in place for high performance. And I think like we're taking better steps, but I think we're like getting really close on like, how are we like now integrating fully with like the other departments of like pitching, hitting, base running, whatever that may be, of like, now we're like fully entwined. We're like, we're knocking out like a lot of birds. Like it's like killing two birds with one stone, right? When it comes to like all the stuff we're doing, and I think we're getting to that point, which is like ideally like the most optimal system of high performance you can ask for.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier said than done, but like, and especially when you have like so many people working for the Cubs, like, dude, the Cubs have like, I don't even know how many employees, like outside of the players, like gotta be like over 200 employees. And then there's obviously like the players. The bigger the team is, like the harder it is to like really get in alignment. But like I feel like we are making like really good progress, and just like I feel like just trying to learn about each other's like departments. Like we were messing around the other day, like yesterday on the 1080 with like some stuff that could potentially be applicable to like other departments, defensive and stuff like that. And like just I think it does begin with like bringing in good people who like want to try to like emulate that high performance environment, and are like just like curious to learn about like other parts of the game. Like it's good. And I think we also do like you mentioned, like a good job of like creating like a environment within our staff where it's like we can have discussions and just like no one's like I think of like Steph, he's someone like that I look up to because I think he's like super knowledgeable. He has a lot of great experience, but like he's always like he'll be the first one to admit that like he doesn't like know everything, and like there's a lot of shit that we don't know, and like that he doesn't like I don't think that's like the norm. Like I don't think that's the norm in the industry for someone who's like at a higher position. I think a lot of times people want to like posture and like, okay, I'm in this high position, like people need to know that like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And it's like, dude, like he's worked with some like, I mean, you ever heard of like Shohei Ohtani? Like he's worked with him. He could easily be like, oh, like I know how to do things. We should do it this way. But he's like, so I think when you have people that are like kind of leading from the top like that, and like knowing that it's like okay to be like obviously like more like vulnerable with your ideas, and like if you don't know something, it's not a bad thing because at least like you're getting out there, and like now you can learn from that instead of just like trying to act like you know something you don't, and then having to like burn us later on because like you maybe weren't aligned on like something we were trying to do, and it comes out to like bite you in the ass. So I don't know. I think that's something that's like very underrated, is like creating that environment where people feel like comfortable enough to do that. And I feel like that's even just like our front office people, like Kanzler, our farm director. I feel like he does like a good job of just like the more mistakes we make, the quicker we make them, the more we learn, and the faster we can get better. So but I don't think that's like the norm. Like I do think like we got something like good cooking with the Cubs. To be honest, obviously I'm biased, but like
I see it firsthand. I do see that. Sorry, it snowed for the first time in like how many years in North Carolina? I just saw a 50-year-old man go down my street on a sled.
That's awesome.
dude,
Kind of missing I'm missing the snow here, man. We didn't get anything in Phoenix. It's like 70 degrees out, but I'm not gonna complain.
Oh, it sounds so terrible.
know,
Like
right?
my lobster has too much butter on it.
man, another thing I want to get into is, dude, you've obviously been to a lot of different places, like for work. I obviously know you have like family ties to Germany. Just talk a little bit about like, dude, travel, culture, and just like living in different places. And like, dude, I don't know if you guys know, but this guy speaks like 3 languages, which I think is pretty fucking badass. Speaks English, speaks German, speaks Spanish. Like, how does that like help you as a coach and just like as a person? Because to me, like traveling and like especially like living down in the DR, like that's like an experience that just kind of like for me it like changed me. Like just give you that different perspective, especially like growing up in like the Midwest. Like that's so much different than like what I experienced down there. Like how has like being at all these different spots and like being exposed to like different cultures like helped kind of shape you as a person and as a coach?
Oh yeah, I mean, for anyone out there that's listening to this, I would advise you to travel as much as you can, especially like when you're young. I think for me, it just opened like a lot of eyes to like there's a lot outside of your bubble, right? I think that can apply to like things in life, but also like things in training too. So my mom's family, my mom was born in Germany, so my mom's family's lived, like a lot of them live there now, so we would go back a lot. But it's cool, like the cultures are different, the cultures are awesome, but specifically when it comes to training, it's funny, like when you see like things like when I'd go to like a normal like our local gym in like Karlsruhe or anywhere around there, and like you go in and like there's some stuff that you'd see, but it's nothing like a 24-hour fitness or anything. Like people in there doing like calisthenic movements and they're like fucking 55 years old, and different stuff like that. Like Olympic lifting is a lot more like you see people that like you'd look at them and you'd be like, this person like doesn't look in shape, and they go up there and they smoke like 100-kilo clean and jerk, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? So like that was cool. And then like you go down to the DR and like the culture's different there, but like maybe not as much on like the like training side of things when it comes to like weightlifting and stuff, but like people, I mean, I remember like I was questioning it because I was like, this country has 11 million people and they produce like so many good baseball players. But like I remember, I don't know what side of the apartment you were on, but I was on like the 7th floor and I faced like the street side of like the one, and there was like,
Yeah.
we lived in this apartment in the DR, and there was this huge field like 2 blocks away, but the field was horrible. There's potholes everywhere. There's like it's like 75% dirt, 25% weeds. And like we'd get home at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'd be chilling. You hear like kids outside playing. You look out and be like, oh, and there'd be like a game of like 25 kids playing baseball in this field, and it ranges from anywhere from like it looks like 2-year-olds. Like these kids like are barely like walking to like 11-year-olds, and they're not even playing with like a bat. They're playing with like rocks and like a stick. And I'm like, what is happening? I'd go get dinner. I'd come back and it would be like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I'm like, what is so loud outside? And I remember looking out and like the kids are still playing baseball, like all this like crazy stuff. So I don't know. Traveling's awesome. Learning about different cultures is awesome. I think on the training side of things, it honestly just helps you like understand the athlete better too. Like I think a lot of these Latin guys, like it's respect it when you can speak their language, but also like they know like you kind of understand like where they come from. You kind of understand like what all this like means to them, because a lot of them like it's way different. So I think the biggest thing is it just helped open my eyes to different cultures, different people, helped me like understand a lot of things a lot better, get out of like my closed mindset of a normal American, I guess.
Helps with GeoGuessr too.
Don't try me in GeoGuessr. For everyone that's out there, I'm nice. Best one on the Cubs staff.
You don't want him in the world.
Coop, what does it look like for you right now? Like for your training, right? How much are you training yourself? Obviously, I mean, I see the traps popping out of the tank.
Phenomenal.
So there's obviously some kind of shrug.
Phenomenal question. Thank you, Jesus, and like my genetics for traps, because I swear to God, they've always been like this. Even when I was like a skinny, like 160-pound, like high school kid. But they've gotten better. Just clean and jerk and snatch. A lot of Olympic lifting. And then right now, this is the best time of the year because all the strength coaches are back. So we got everyone under one roof. And what we did, me and Connor Rooney started this a year ago, but we got French in there now. We got Luis, Alexei, Corey. So we call it it's dungeon rat training. It's awesome. We'll send you all the workouts. It's great. But we pretty much we just do like an upper lower split Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then like Wednesday we'll do some like aerobic, anaerobic work, and then like Saturday I'll try to do like some top speed stuff, but nothing too crazy. Sunday's off, but it's good. Like we come up with like Rooney and I have been like we did like alternating workouts last year, so like he would write a day, I would write a day. We'd periodize it out for like 4 weeks, but yeah, I mean, that was kind of what I was talking about. It's cool because like I don't know about you, but like if I just trained by myself, like I would probably only do like a certain handful of exercise that I know like I like and I'm good at, you know? And when I work out with Rooney, like I remember last year, he was like the first day he wrote on the block, he was like, yeah, we're doing like Jefferson curls singles, like heavy singles, and then we're going to 3 sets of 5. And I'm like, dude, everything that I've done in my life when it came to training was like not to like move my spine under heavy load. And I'm like, you know what? Like, screw it. I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to try it out. But like, I'm telling you, it got me so much better. Plus it like the training environment's elite. And now we got these guys in here training with us too. So it's cool, man. It's fun. It makes a lot of this stuff novel. I do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't do otherwise, you know? But we also, again, at the facility we have at the Cubs, we have a lot of like really cool resources, so we can get super creative with things we do training wise, which is sweet.
There's almost like a certain aspect to it of like when, like you mentioned, when someone else kind of writes a little bit of your program, where when you're always in control, you're going to control the most. Versus when you relinquish that, then somebody else is going to push some kind of limit, whether it be making you uncomfortable. Either me personally, I can hit triples up to 5s. You get me over 5 reps and I'm going to be in shambles. But then I'll hop into something with, like DeMarco, and he's like, oh, we got a top set of 8. Then you got to back that off and hit 16 more. I'm like, I'm sorry. What? I'm going to die. Yeah. And I was like, this sucks. And then I was like, well, actually, later on, I was like, well, that kind of worked. Like maybe we hit that again, and it's almost like inadvertent learning on yourself. And then you can kind of pull from that information from what you're doing in training is like, okay, is this applicable somewhere else? To almost where it's like a testing field for yourself for like an hour and a half of, I like the way this felt or the way this kind of worked. You run it for say a cycle and then you're like, okay, well, maybe the jump metric, the modified RSI went up, whatever it may be, the counter movement depth. I know you guys use the force plates a lot when you're kind of like testing through some metrics and through your barometers, but you get those kind of new ideas that spawn from it just from being, in a sense, like a little more playful in your training than extremely rigid and structured and just sticking to what, quote unquote, what you know.
Yeah.
So and I can kind of see that. Like, I know I follow a lot of you guys like on Instagram, seeing like what you're doing in training. And I'm like, damn, okay, first off, there's some powerhouses in that building. Let's put it that way.
We got some studs now, man. We got some studs. It's been getting up over the years.
So that's cool just to see
staff in the MLB.
That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're aiming for.
Honestly.
Just physically imposing every time you guys step onto the field.
Seriously though. We gotta pass the eye test.
Yeah. But it is cool to see, like, it's not just, hey, this guy's gonna crush a 500-pound back squat. It is seeing like the Jefferson curls. We are seeing like a lot of people can rip cleans. Not a lot of people are ripping clean and jerks. You know what I mean? Yeah. So some of that stuff is pretty neat. Now, I did get thrown around by a snatch the other day, and it absolutely ruined my already ruined shoulder. But
yeah, no, it's cool, man. And it's honestly the other thing. I'm sure a lot of people know this training wise, but it's just nice to like work out with like and train with people who are like like stronger in other aspects, right? Like when it comes to like the people that we're training with right now, like French is ridiculously strong, right? Like he's gonna like probably like body me when it comes to like back squatting, like some pulling, like I'm gonna be able to like do a lot of the Olympic lifts better than him, right? Rooney, like again, we talked about a guy who like super into like spinal stuff. The guy like Zurcher deadlifted 365 yesterday. Like I'd shit myself if I tried to do that, And then like we have like Corey, Alexei, like the guys are freaky strong too, but they're also super fast, right? Like we get on the 10 and these guys are like moving. It's like, holy crap. Like it's so much fun when you're around people that are better at you than certain things, because it's like, okay, man, this is pushing me to be able to like, holy shit, I want to get better at this now. Right. Instead of just like, if I was like, hey, I'm programming everything, it's like, I'm going to smoke these guys out of the water, because it's like stuff that I know I'm good at. Right. But it's like, now that I'm like under like different stuff, it's like, dude, this is like, it almost makes like the training so much more like it kind of like brings me back to like when I first started lifting. And like everything was hard, but then you kind of start getting better at it, and it's like you get these like newbie gains. It almost like feels like that to an extent sometimes, because like you'll do something you're not like good at, and then the next week you'll do it again, and you'll be like, I don't know how I just did that, but like I went up like 45 pounds on this exercise, And it's a cool aspect, but it's definitely a fun group we have.
I know French is a machine master, so you get him near one of those, and he's not getting off. When he was with us Saturday mornings, we would go over to the rec because we don't have machines in our weight room, really. I mean, we have like a couple like anchors for like cable stuff, but nothing crazy. So it's all barbell or free weight based. And then he'd be like, let's go get a pump before we go. So we would hit an hour long, just straight up game day pump, and then just walk over like two meatheads, like walking back to the facility.
We'd be in there with all the NARPs, all these regular students with those like coaches. And we just go, like 2 to 3 sets to like failure on every machine, just fucking go around. It was sick.
It was just drop set central.
Yeah, honestly, it was elite. Yeah. No, I love, dude. The Dungeon Rat is sick. Dude, I can like, every week I feel like I do like a movement, at least like 1 or 2 movements that I've like never done in my life. Like we did those like behind the neck split jerks. Like I've never really been big into Olympic lifting, but like I've never done those. Tried them. They were actually kind of sick, and like it's like, okay, dude, maybe I kind of want to like try to get a little bit better at this kind of stuff. And it's cool because we can kind of be like, oh, like, all right, do you guys have any like suggestions? Like I was thinking of some stuff yesterday where I'm like, oh, I kind of want to try this next week. So like it's cool, and it's just like it is cool like programming for yourself, because you can like, all right, I want to get really good at this one lift, but like especially now, like we want to take advantage of the time, because like once we break for affiliate, we're kind of all on our own. Like obviously me and Rune will be together, but like this is like the time of the year where like we can train together, have just like that high T environment at its apex, and then pick it up again at the end of the year. So like it is sick, to be honest with you.
This is a really good question I have. Aside from your staff and the people that you're constantly around or seeing or viewing, especially when you guys are together, where are you pulling like these like newer ideas, or where are you kind of seeking out information to absorb, not just in S&C and the X's and O's, but in just continuing education? You guys have such a library of just, in all honesty, wisdom around you. Where are you pulling to pull that other information outside of that? Or do you even need to?
Are you talking from like a S&C standpoint, or just like in general, like almost like skill standpoint and like other stuff?
I'm going to say both.
Dude, so one thing that like they kind of like challenged me to do this last year was I played baseball in high school, but basketball was like my background. Like that's what I was around in college. So like they challenged me to be a lot more like intentional with like learning more like the skill side of it. And like the people we have in the building with the Cubs are awesome from the skill side, but especially like our pitching staff. That was one that like they are super. I feel like they look through the lens of like pitching development the same way you'd look through the lens of like strength conditioning development, in terms of like seeing like a certain adaptation that they want to develop with a guy, right? Whether that's velocity, whether that's command, whether that's like they're doing a new pitch, and they periodize it a lot of the same way that like we do, but there's so many other different factors that go into that like it's easy concepts to understand because they might use different verbiage than us, right? It's not necessarily like the same like rep sets, volume, whatever that may be, right? But like they're doing the same exact thing. And so like understanding like that aspect of it and like picking those guys' brain, especially in season. The pitching coach I was able to be with these last 2 years, George Sthenopoulos, is amazing. And so like that was like the most fun part for me is like how can we like bridge these two together and actually make this guy like a better pitcher, right? Like what are like capabilities that he's missing from a physical standpoint? What are capabilities he's missing from a performance standpoint of like actually the skill of like pitching? How do we bridge those two, right? Like how do we develop those in season? What does his schedule look like? What does his workload look like? How are we attacking that from like the weight room standpoint? How are we attacking that from the pitching standpoint? And then like having that constant communication. Like I learned so much from him on like certain stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not even like close to a pitching coach, but like it's sick. Now that I'm in the dugout, I'm like looking for these things that George talks about the guy. And then that even like gets me more buy-in with the guy because he like, let's say he has his outing, he does really well, and they were really looking for like his fastball to like play more up in the zone and get more ride on it, right? And I went over in the second inning because he punched two guys in the first, and I'm like, hey, like, what's his fastball looking like? What are the metrics, you know? And George tells me, and it's like, yeah, this is perfect. This is what we want, like, or something with his body, right? Like he's like over rotating or something like that, but he's doing like really like he didn't do that game. He's finishing like really linear, right? And like we had the metrics of like, oh, his torso angular velocity is a lot better. Like when this guy comes into lift, like post outing, right, and we're talking about it, I can be like, and again, like I don't know anything about pitching, and I can like tell him like, dude, this like looked way better. How you feeling about that? And the guy's like, yes, man, like this was what I was going for, right? And so like this guy knows that like I'm not just this like idiot meathead who loves to bench press, you know, like I actually care about his pitching development and I actually care about like how he's doing in game. And now all of a sudden, like this guy's like, okay, like, you know what, this guy actually cares about me. And like, not only am I like showing him like, hey dude, I think, you know, if we get like your concentric impulse higher, your like P1 higher in your concentric impulse, that might help you. That's going to, we think, help you throw harder. You know, if you get more elastic or we see your RSI mod go up, like that might help you, you know. Now it's like, okay, like I'm kind of like bought into this a little bit more now, right? Or like, wow, I did see an uptick in like my heater, right? And it was when like I put on a little bit more lean mass or I started doing this different type of training, right? So I think that was like the biggest thing that like I wanted to get better at was more just like we do have a lot of the resources from the SNC side of it, but like now like understanding like the skill side of it more and like how to integrate that was like the biggest thing for me. So.
Hell yeah. What we usually end with this question for everybody. Any hot takes on, could be S&C, could be anything else, I suppose, either, or like something that you think is gonna be like the next big thing in S&C, or gonna be like pivotal for coaches going into the next, you know, whatever decade, something you agree with, disagree with, anything you want to get into.
Let's see. This is a hard one. Damn, I should have prepared for this one, French. I think I could go a couple different ways, but
It's okay.
I wouldn't say this is like necessarily a hot take, but I think we've talked about this a couple of times, but I think in like professional or college sports, especially in professional baseball, I think like training wise, like you should probably be flying like pretty close to the sun with a lot of these guys. From what I've seen from like some other orgs or just even like thoughts of other people, it's like, well, we want to be kind of like cautious and like slow play it, which I understand there's a time and a place, but if you look at the numbers, like a lot of these guys that were signed and are drafted like aren't going to make the big leagues. How are we going to optimize as much value as we can? I think that comes through like having like a really good like planned out system and a plan for a lot of these guys from every single department. But I think a lot of the time we can get a little like too passive and cautious with what we're doing training wise, you know, like ideally, like we want to push these guys as hard as we can. And I think like you have to understand like the risks that come along with that. Like guys are going to get like banged up and have some like issues, but if we're truly trying to like maximize these guys' development and maximize the potential of what they have to like create major league value for us and themselves, it's like we have to like do that. And I think like being honest with these guys about where they're at in their careers right now and how we see them progressing is pretty vital, you know, not only to them but to the organization as well. So I would say that if it's anything, you know. like to be like, I wouldn't say like ultra aggressive, but like pretty aggressive on that side of the scale for thinking like aggressive and passive, you know?
Oh, here's another good one. What's like the worst road setup you've had being at an affiliate, or like craziest like story you've had of like, oh, I had to train guys in a really shitty weight room, or like we had to do this? Because I know that there's definitely good and bad when it comes to that from what I've heard.
So this year was a little bit easier. Brian, I don't know if you know this, because I mean, you're out in that region, but like Myrtle Beach, we have like our weight room is an outdoor trailer. So
It's sick.
I'm not gonna lie, it's very cool. Like when you first get out there, you're like, this is fucking sick. We're like the highest team minor league team in baseball. Like this is awesome. When you're like 3.5 months into it and it's July in Annapolis, North Carolina, and it's 92 degrees out with like 85% humidity, like you get under a front
You're like,
squat,
this sucks.
You get under a front squat, you're like, God, like you're getting like 3rd-degree burns. It's like, it's not as cool now, you know? But the trailer was awesome, like super unique, cool experiences. Some of like the like bad road setups we had, so like a majority of like the minor league strength coaches I've like been around have been like really cool. We had one set up my first year in like Salem, Virginia, with the Red Sox affiliate. Extremely old stadium. Their weight room was like tiny, and it was connected to the home clubhouse. So they were like weird about people using it like during the game. And like I would always bring our pitchers back after they threw. But like it was something with like they didn't want people using it, whatever. So we worked out, like I brought like a bunch of the stuff from the trailer, and we pretty much worked out in like this dusty ass like underneath like the stairs of everything. And it was like it was unique. You will get into a lot of situations in minor league baseball where like you're working out outside. Like I remember we played the Carolina Mudcats, and they didn't have like the same concept. We couldn't use the weight room like during the game or after the game. We had the 1080, and I brought it out. There was like a big ass like hill like behind left field, and I'm like, all right, dude, I guess we're doing all this stuff on the hill. Like we did all of our strength work. Like you put it on 40 kilos on the 1080. It's like, all right, you're doing like walking lunges, but we're gonna do it on the 1080, right? We did like broad jumps off like that, right? It's like getting super creative with these guys, and like honestly, it's fun. It kind of like almost makes you expand your repertoire as a coach and like be more creative in how you're thinking about things. Like, how am I going to accomplish the task of like creating this like certain stimulus that I want for this guy, but doing it in a way where it's like I have zero resources, right? And as you move up the levels, you don't run into it that much, but still, you would be surprised that there's some wild weight rooms, man, tiny, but it's all part of it.
Brian, you got anything else you want to?
I don't think I have anything else, man. I'm at a loss.
Yeah. Have anything you want to add? Closing remarks, advice to coaches based on your experience, or just in general?
I don't know. I'd just say keep learning. Honestly, like if you want to get better at things, I'd say take a chance on yourself. On it, make like go out and like give your services for free. That's what I did growing up, and it helped me a lot. It's gonna just put you in situations to grow. But appreciate you guys having me on, man. This is great. I'm an honorary Bev boy now, bro. I've been watching Bev boys since French joined the club, and I finally got to make my appearance, man.
Fuck yeah.
This was like my first ever podcast too. I'm not gonna lie, I was like a little nervous. I'm like, damn, I feel like I'm gonna talk too much, like I'm gonna be stumbling over my words, but I felt like I held my own, so I was all right.
No, man, that was great. We obviously really appreciate you having you on and taking the time. Obviously, it's always good to chop it all up. I know we try to keep it pretty casual, but I feel like that was great. So definitely looking forward to having you on again at some point. Having more people from the Cubs on. Just have this be like the Cubs little secondary
performance network.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, dude. Just exploit. So, yeah, dude. As always, guys. Oh, dude, almost forgot. So we have to rate our energy drinks. Let me tell you how we do things around here. So there's factors we take into account. So we take into account the price, we take into account the taste, the ingredients, and the aesthetic of the cans. There's kind of like 4 main categories. So like price, how the can looks, the taste, and like the ingredient profile. So I guess I'll lead off here.
Leave
Yeah.
me off. I need to see how this.
Yeah. Okay. So, spicy mango 3D. As I mentioned earlier, you can't beat the price. $1.99. I think you can get a 12-pack these bad boys for like $20.
$20.
Unreal. So, price, that's A tier. I do like the design of the can. They kind of do this gradient. It is no heat seal, which is nice. Or if it is, I can't even tell. The can is good. It's not my favorite design, but it is nice and simple. I like the gradient. The ingredient profile is pretty simple, just 200 milligrams of caffeine, some B vitamins. No nootropics in there, but for $1.99, you're probably not going to expect too much. The flavor, I think 3D does a really good job of their flavors. And this spicy mango, honestly, I thought it was going to be a little more spicy, but I think I liked that. It was like the can went down smooth. It's mostly like a sweet mango, but then a little bit of like a spice at the end. I'm not a huge mango fan in energy drinks, but I think the spicy mango is better than, usually mango just gets like too mellow and it's just kind of like meh, too bland. I honestly prefer the spicy mango to like any of the other just like mango flavored drinks that I've had. Probably not a daily driver, just due to the ingredient profile, but the price is very good. And I do like, what's that? The cucumber melon 3D, I think, is probably my favorite flavor. That one's fire. Dude, I'm going to have to give this one. This one's exceeding expectations, though. I'm going to have to give it I'm going to have to give this like a 7.6. That's really good. Anything above like a 7 is solid.
Damn. Okay.
Usually anything above like an 8 for me is like a daily driver. This exceeded expectations.
You're like the Russian judge, man. I was gonna give mine like high scores, but you're talking about anything above a 7. So I'm glad you went.
Well, hey, this is for me though.
Okay.
It's definitely it's no Gorilla Mind, it's no Ghost, it's no.
It's no Sour Pink Lemonade Ghost.
That's right.
Yeah, but it is like Russian judge. But it is a solid drink. I'd probably pick it up from time to time. So yeah, that's the 3D Energy Spicy Mango.
All right, you want to go next?
I'll
take it next.
I gotta plug my fiance too, because hers is the orange creamsicle. Shout out Edmonton Elks Strength Conditioning, and then and then Sour Pink Lemonade. Okay, taste phenomenal, but is one of those I don't know if you guys feel this way about the Ghost drinks, specifically like this one, and I like the Warheads one too, the Sour Warheads one. But it's not one you can drink quickly. I don't feel like you have to almost sip it a little bit, because one.
These guys watch the episodes.
I'm saying what?
I said you've watched the episodes.
Yeah. You gotta enjoy this one, man. If you drink it really quick, it's gonna be unenjoyable. It almost would lower the rating.
The rating.
So if you can take your time and sip this one and enjoy it, it's top tier. The aesthetics of the can, gorgeous. I mean, when you see this in a fridge at the gas station, you're like, damn, I want that. You got that pink on there, a little bit of yellow. You're like, I know that shit can get me going, Ingredients, solid. It's middle tier. It's not too crazy. 200 milligrams is a lot, but it's not we got some 300 guys up there. It's not on that level, right? But it's solid. If it's up to me, man, when it comes to I'm going to give I was thinking of giving this a 8.8 to 9.2 in that region. It's top tier. There's not a lot that beat this, especially I feel like you could drink that to get ready, and I'm not gonna crush your lift. I could also drink this and chill and just be hanging out sometimes, chopping it up with the boys. It's not gonna get me crazy where I'm bouncing off the walls. It can do the
it's
best.
Versatile.
It can do the best of both worlds. It's very versatile. And then if you go with the orange cream though, oh my god, fire! That's Danelle's favorite one. So I had to get this one in memoriam. Is that memorial? I don't know the word, but in memory of her.
Unreal.
Yeah. This guy knows ball.
That's a real ball knower right there. Zero sugar monster shot or strawberry shot. Can still looks cool, kind of iconic on the original OG monster, but with a little bit of red at the top. I do like the red tab. So the look of the can's great. In all honesty, if I'm going to pay $2, I would rather probably go for the 3D in this case, since this is only 160 160 milligrams per can of caffeine, so pretty lower stim, 0 sugar, 6 carbs in it. Flavor wise, it's okay. It tastes like the original Monster. That's not a bad thing. It's just you're kind of expecting a little bit more strawberry finish towards the end of it, and it didn't really get in there. Overall, I'd probably just give it like a pretty okay score of like 6.4. I think you expect a little bit more from the strawberry than you get. Whereas if it was just like the blue, like standard, like 0 carb, low carb, like Monster, you'd probably be like, okay, that's what you're getting. It's a little bit misleading. Not bad, but is it great? Definitely not. But hey, if I'm driving 17 hours and I'm like, I just want something different, I'm gonna pick it up.
Type shit.
Type.
Hell yeah, dog. Man, that's a banger of an episode. As always, guys, really appreciate y'all tuning into the episode. We'll definitely, Coop, if people want to follow you on socials, where can they find you?
You just type in Das Koopa, DASCOOPA on Instagram. I'm there. It'll be great. You see all the rat training with the boys.
Hell yeah.
Incredible.
That's great. Yep. You guys know we've plugged our socials a million times. It'll be down in the bio. We'll link Coop's stuff down in the bio as well. Make sure to subscribe to the show if you haven't already. If you do enjoy it, give us a review. Recommend it to a friend. And yeah, really appreciate you guys watching, and we will see y'all next time. Peace.